Okay, so here's my list. It goes Predator, the original, obviously. Predator 2, that one, the Danny Glover one. AVP, the first one. Prey. Yeah, we're going to talk about Prey in a second. Everything else. I'm back, everybody. My name is Kevin Halden. This is Nerdly Out Loud, the official channel of nerdly.co.uk, your favourite British home for all of your news, reviews, and exclusive interviews. We like to cover everything from the big budget to the low budget to the no budget, with a special keen interest on the lower end of the scale. That's where my heart lives. It's where it lies. I will always push that stuff for you guys. Prey is getting a massive assload of love. And I'm really happy to see a Predator movie getting an assload of love. I will say that up front. This is a Predator movie that was very much needed. This is a Predator movie that I genuinely was quite excited for after seeing the trailer, because going back to, base level, like street level thuggery. So I was excited about that. I couldn't understand why they didn't believe in it enough to put it in the cinema and just put it straight out to Hulu or HBO Max or whatever it was, whatever streaming site it went onto. I couldn't really wrap my head around that, because even as the movies have descended in quality, like, they've still had enough faith in the franchise. But let's be honest, it ain't a masterpiece. It ain't the best movie you've ever seen. It ain't the best Predator movie you've ever seen. Calm the hell down. Like, I've been seeing a lot of reviews where these people are going mental. Greatest Predator movie ever. Let's just calm down a second. Recency bias, maybe. I did quite enjoy this movie for the reasons that I am going to tell you. I also didn't like some of this movie for the reasons I am going to tell you. Let's just be honest. This is not as good as Predator 2. It's definitely not as good as the original either. Let's just get that on Front Street. I would actually say, due to the fact that I am a total nerd and a bit of a geek, and I love nerdy, geeky things, AVP, the first AVP, is probably just a smidge better than this movie. Probably controversial. Everybody's going to flame me in the comments for that. But that's just my view, and that is my opinion. But then, that's where Prey is. So let's talk about Prey. Let's get into it. Let's talk about Prey. If you've seen my videos before, you know that I have a certain routine that I'm going to do. We talk about the plot, we talk about the cast and the crew, we talk about what I didn't like, then we get into my final rating of the movie. That is my rating, not the rating of Nerdly as a whole, but you can take my rating to the bank and buy Bitcoin with it, and you will become probably really poor, because I don't really know what Bitcoin is. I'm going to thank Dan Trachtenberg. I really am, because that last Predator movie, I think it was the last Predator movie, the one that Shane Black did, and we all had faith in Shane Black because he was in that original movie. He was part of the lore, part of the universe, part of the franchise. He's coming back to direct and write, and it's going to be awesome. Shane Black can do no wrong. It'll probably be set at Christmas. There will probably be kidnapping, but what we did not expect was an autism subplot. We did not expect that. Dan Trachtenberg has taken all the pomp and circumstance out of what the Predator franchise has become, stripped it back, taken it to the the desert level. I believe it's like 1719, so we're back in like the Comanche era. So thank you, Dan Trachtenberg, for doing that. It doesn't necessarily forgive 10 Cloverfield Lane, because that was not a Cloverfield movie. That was just a really good cellar dweller movie. That's what that movie was, and then you tack Cloverfield on the end, and I won't forgive you for that because I love Cloverfield. But thank you for giving us a Cloverfield sequel. Now, people would have you believe that this movie is the origin story of Predators. It is not the origin story of the Predator. In fact, we get little to no information about the Predator, which is great, because we don't need it. We don't need it. We've had it. We kind of know a little bit about the lore. We're going to revise some of it as we go. The story is more the human aspect. It's the Comanche native, a skilled warrior called Naru, a female who's strong and powerful, but the rest of her tribe won't let her be a hunter because she's a woman and she's weak, and her brother's the strong one and he's going to go out and do all this stuff. So she's like, I'm going to prove you wrong, and I'm going to hunt bears and wolves and things start killing everyone, and then a predator comes down, and the predator's all like looking for the strongest human being or the strongest thing on this planet, and finds Naru, and that's the story. I may be glossing over it, but let's be honest, that's all the story needs to be. I don't need to be going on like a detective hunt or anything like that. The story just needs to be man or woman versus predator, going at it the way Arnie did in the first movie. That's why that first movie's so brilliant. You have a group of hard-ass men who are going up against like an alien predator thing that they don't know anything about. It doesn't know anything about them. They surprise it. It surprises them. That's what this movie is doing, but we're doing it on a smaller scale. We have what we think is sort of like a weaker character that is going to learn. And let me just say, she does learn throughout this movie. She is no Rey Skywalker. She is not that character. She doesn't pick up a lightsaber and she's awesome with it, even though she's never ever seen a lightsaber in her life. Like, this woman, Naru, you see her train. We get little montages, we get little snippets. You see her building weapons, which is just so cool. And you kind of can believe, okay, it gets a little bit hokey towards the end, but you kind of can believe that she could do this stuff. So anyway, the movie becomes a 1v1. We're going to meet some French Packers from back in the day, and they're going to be assholes and not very nice. The movie at one point is going to turn into sort of like a World War I situation, which completely comes out of nowhere, but I'm buying it. I'm loving it. Got some awesome visuals, and we'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, let's just talk about some of the casting characters, which we've already done. Naru is played by Amber Midthunder, which is the coolest last name ever. She is actually really good. She's great in this movie. Do I buy the character completely? Not really, but I do buy the character, if you know what I mean. Like, I love the way she comes into this, sort of trying to be the hunter-gatherer, but they don't want her to be that. They want her to know her place. And I love how she sort of realizes that there's something else out there, but nobody's listening to her. So she's just going to go out and do it, Ripley style. She's going to go after the predator, find out what it is. I like all of that, but it's just towards the end she becomes a little bit too... Is it her, or is it just the fact that the predator becomes an idiot? The predator's badass all the way through the movie. The look of him, the aesthetic of him, the way he moves, the way he fights, the way he is. The fact that he doesn't want to use his plasma guns at one point and goes to the knives because that's more fun for him and that's more game for him. So the predator does look cool. You get amazing reveals, like not all the time, some of them are quite ropey, but you get this fantastic reveal where he lifts the bear above his head and the blood's trickling down to reveal the predator, or at least the top half of the predator. Visually, this movie is absolutely stunning. I just think the story kind of just dwells along. I mean, if you can survive that first half an hour where you don't really see the predator, that's like my main gripe with the movie. But Amber Midthunder, anyway, Amber Midthunder, she's great. I really, really do like her. I'm not going to talk about the predator, who's played by Dane DiLiegro. I'm not going to talk about him too much because he's just awesome. He's badass. He does everything you want the predator to do. I think the predator in this movie might be the best version of the predator we've seen. All the members of her tribe are absolutely brilliant. Like, they all play their roles really well. Her brother Tab, he's like really, really shitty towards her. This is your sister, dude. Like, what the hell are you doing? He's a proper dick to her. Then you got Wasapi. He's a dick as well. At one point, they actually take a hostage, which I kind of saw as an homage, a callback to that first movie. You know, when the rest of the group's got that woman, I think her name was Anna? But they've kind of got a hostage, only this time the predator kills them all and she runs away. Like, that was a little bit different. And they do that a couple of times. They do some callbacks. We'll talk about one in a minute. They do a couple of callbacks like that, which is pretty cool. It's what you want to see in your predator movie. Like, appreciate the law, respect the law, just don't go too far with it. A little bit about what I did and didn't like about this movie. I'll start with what I liked, because I put a post out on Facebook where I was basically saying the only thing I'm praying for is for this movie to end, the end credits to come. And it was a little bit facetious, but to be perfectly honest, that's how I was feeling at the time. I was like, nearly about the halfway point, nearly given up because I hadn't seen enough Predator. I hadn't seen enough of Naru to really make me give a shit. But then you kind of start getting montages and little training segments, and I'm like, I'm cool. Like when she makes those axes and throws them into the trees, that's dope. Like I loved that. What was keeping me invested was the visuals. Like this movie looks amazing. That's why I say, like, why didn't they put this on the screen? Why didn't they put this on the big screen? The biggest screen possible. IMAX screens for this movie. It looks gorgeous. Trachtenberg, his DOP, everyone involved in making this movie look the way it did. It's fantastic. The grading, just gorgeous. So yeah, visually, I was pleased. Aesthetically, I was pleased. Like, the sound design. If you're sat there watching it and visually your eyeballs are being just pleased left, right, and center, but the sound is penetrating your brain and getting into your ears, and it's just working on every single level, that's half the battle. That's half the battle. And the sound in this film is absolutely incredible. One thing I didn't like, and it's a little bit of a nitpick, but I guess hopefully we'll fix it in future sequels or whatever, is that we have the flintlock revolver. Like, this comes into the movie. The Naru is given the flintlock revolver at one point, but as we know from Predator 2, which is definitely canon, as far as I'm aware, the Predator gives the flintlock revolver to Danny Glover. So he already has it at that point. So when Naru has it at the end of the movie, you have to assume the Predators are coming back. You have to assume Naru's going to meet a sticky end at the Predator's hands. That's cool. I like that. I do like that. But at the same time, I was kind of like, I don't know. Like, it kind of felt like you've thrown this in without really thinking it out. But I'm assuming somebody would have pulled him up on it. So it's a nitpick. It's a slight nitpick. The other one is the fact that I do love the visuals of the movie, but at one point, as I mentioned earlier, it turns into World War I. We kind of get this fade to black moment, and then it comes up and everything's just dusty everywhere, and it's almost like we've completely changed countries or something like that. It just doesn't look the same way the rest of the movie did. Again, it's a slight nitpick, but it's a nitpick nonetheless. So in summation, I will give my final review because genuinely, I like the movie. I do like the movie. Visually, sound-wise, it's a great film. I think the storyline and the plot does fall apart kind of 3/4 of the way through. Like at the start, when we're doing the world building, getting to know you stuff, I wasn't really all that invested because I was like, I need the Predator to come in. And you kept getting little glimpses of the Predator. But then you get all the woods, all the desert, all the good stuff. You get the fights, which are gnarly. You get some amazing fight sequences in this. Some brilliant Predator kills. But he falls foul to the most stupidest thing possible. That happened because it had to happen. How does this woman take down the Predator? I was a little bit disappointed with how it went down. Prey gets a 3.5. It's definitely well worth your time. It's worth a watch. And like I say, stick with that first half an hour because it does get better, dear viewer. It does get better. It just didn't get good enough for me to be raving about it like it's the best thing since sliced bread. I'm not trying to be controversial. I'm really not. Normally that is my bag. But I did genuinely like the movie. I just had a couple of little issues, but they're mostly nitpicks, and I do think this movie and the pantheon and the franchise and the legacy of the Predator movies, it doesn't sit in my top 3. It's just a solid story. But what it does do is excites me. It excites me for future movies, future Predator movies. It excites me moving forward because if we keep doing these little low-level stories but adding a little bit more, like if we jump ahead to like the World War or something like that, or even go a little bit further back and we can have the Predator going up against some samurais, that'd be pretty cool. And I love the fact that we didn't try and squeeze Weyland-Yutani in there anyway. Thank God for that. But yeah, this for me is a 3.5 out of 5. Prey is a great movie. You should absolutely watch it. Give it your time. It should have been in the cinema, but I guess with everything that's going on with Batgirl, you kind of have to be somewhat cautious these days. If you saw the movie, please do hit me in the comments below and let me know what you thought of said movie. But also in the meantime, do everything we all ask you to do, and that is to hit that like, hit that subscribe, and ding that notification bell. The notification bell will let you know whenever I drop an episode, whether it be an interview, a review, or anything else that ends in ooh. Talking about ooh, go watch Prey.